Part 10. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Ye. Chapter 91. Chapter 91. What weird logic. Ignoring his embarrassed look, Rosen then gestured with 3 fingers, the third one I dislike the most is making friends. After saying that, he gathered his coat, stood up and said, I'll pay the bill, you can do whatever you want. This is a good excuse. Luo Yuanhang was hesitant just now, but now he is full of anger. I originally thought that he and Rosen could easily reach a consensus, and that they were friends after all, but I didn't expect that this person was so cold and indifferent, and he didn't save any face. He was really a bit too ignorant. He is very capable, but does he think he is the only great perfumer in the world? No matter how powerful he is still far behind the top ones. Thinking bitterly, he drank up the wine in the glass in one gulp. Wanted to see if Rosen was gone, he turned his eyes, only to see a familiar figure, Suyun. I almost forgot that she was also here. On the first day Wei arrived, she even cried to him about this matter. Squinting his eyes, he was just in a position to see her profile, and saw that she was sitting there alone, holding her mobile phone as if chatting with someone, pressing her hands quickly. After thinking about it, Luo Yuanhang turned his head and glanced in the direction of the bathroom. Before Zhang Shiwei came out, he simply got up and walked in the direction of Suyun. Suyun was holding her cell phone and chatting happily with Si Yao. She didn't expect that when she went downstairs to have something to eat, he would come with her. Although the seat where she was sitting had enough privacy, the concealment was pretty good. But after all, his identity is extraordinary, and he is not afraid of being discovered. Now, she is sitting here, raising her eyes just enough to see him, and he can also see herself, but she can't sit together openly in such a public place. She can only chat with each other through the mobile phone. This sense of distance and sneaky excitement are inexplicably a different kind of interest. At 3:30, there is a dog approaching. Be careful not to bite. Suyun frowned as she looked at this incomprehensible line of words on the screen. What does it mean? Looking up to see his reaction, I saw a familiar yet unfamiliar face suddenly approaching. Suyun. She subconsciously grinned back, and she was startled. Luo Yuanhang was actually a little happy when he saw her shocked expression. It would be unpleasant to say that she had no reaction at all when he saw him. There is still a reaction, which means that she still cares and still has him in her heart to some extent. This kind of complete narcissism and no regard for what others think. If Suyun knew about it, she would be furious. She was just scared, nothing more. What a coincidence, he sat down on the seat opposite her, minding his own business, regardless of whether she wanted to or not. What, alone? Suyun rolled her eyes at him, feeling a little angry. The position where he sat just blocked her view of Si Yao. Now she also understood why he made such a strange statement just now. In other words, Si Yao also saw Luo Yuanhang. You didn't say it earlier. He quickly pressed his fingers on the screen and sent him a message. These words were full of resentment. Si Yao laughed and asked her, why, you were bitten so quickly? No, but it's annoying, and you didn't come over to help me drive the dog away. Are you sure you want my help? I'll go over there then. He couldn't help but want to announce their relationship to the whole world. No. No need. I refuse. Suyun quickly made a rejection expression, and her frightened look made Si Yao laugh out loud. At any time, he replied with these 4 words. Of course, it was impossible to really ask him to help, and this was a public place, so Luo Yuanhang didn't dare to do anything. However, seeing these 4 words, she still felt quite relieved, and she smiled sweetly. Seeing her smile, Luo Yuanhang was in a daze for a moment. Honestly speaking, after knowing her for so many years, he has become accustomed to having her around. He was used to her wearing work clothes and being busy in the laboratory every day, Used to all kinds of strange smells mixed with her body, used to her unchanging expression and tone, and it was precisely because of these habits that he was extremely tired of it. How could there be a woman as boring as her, neither cute nor sexy, neither romantic nor gentle, so that he could not be interested in her at all? If it weren't for her willingness to help him wholeheartedly, or if she wasn't mixing perfume, her ability in this area was truly amazing, so he wouldn't spend so long with her. However, her smile just now really shocked him. Such a sweet and playful smile. Is it really Soo-yoon? Who is she laughing with, talking to? Now that he is sitting in front of her, why does she still smile so happily as if she didn't see it, just staring at the phone screen? Luo Yuanhang definitely didn't believe that she would ignore him like this. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that there was only one answer: she did it on purpose. When she saw herself just now, her eyes were obviously panicked. If she was really ignoring him, it shouldn't be like that. She must be feeling unhappy, so she behaved like this. This was called playing hard to get, deliberately attracting his attention. Cleared his throat and tapped one hand on the table. The sound made Soo-yoon look up at him. Luo Yuanhang was satisfied. Look. What are you pretending to be? Even though he obviously cares, he still pretends not to care. Soo-yoon, I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? He said. Soo-yoon glanced at him sideways and said, am I familiar with you? After being scoffed at, Luo Yuanhang frowned. Soo-yoon, why do you have to do this? Even if we can't be lovers, we can still be friends. Look, your revenge has been avenged, and your anger should be gone. There was something wrong with Wei, but you came back with revenge. Now that we have withdrawn the lawsuit, let this matter go as it is, and let the past be forgotten, okay? Soo-yoon looked at him with wide eyes, as if looking at some rare animal. Soo-yoon was simply surprised. What kind of weird logic? Who gave him the courage to say that the past has just ended? What qualifications does he have to turn it over? Who does he think he is? I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you mean. What revenge has come back? What revenge have I taken? What revenge have I taken? What I say is that I look like a chivalrous woman in ancient times who acted bravely for righteousness, but I'm sorry, I really didn't do anything. Luo Yuanhang leaned back, put one hand on the backrest, looked at her and said, Soo-yoon, it's boring for you to be like this. I sincerely make peace with you, but you have to be so weird. Do you dare to say that you stayed here before? The company's formula has not been tampered with? Didn't you deliberately give it a fake formula? He was very confident, as if he had some handle on her. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 92. Chapter 92, do you admit it? Soo-yoon sat up straight and looked at him with a funny face. Mr. Luo, if I remember correctly, you have always claimed that all the perfume and essential oil formulas of your company are made by Miss Zhang. How come the formulas are not? Did she write it? Why did I do it? Besides, even if I have this intention, it's not a problem at all with the original author, Miss Zhang. Excuse me, what kind of revenge can I take? She took her time and countered him with his own words. Luo Yuanhang guessed what she would say and lowered his voice. Soo-yoon, there is no one else here now, so let's not say such things. You and I both know what those formulas are about. Yes, I admit it. I took advantage of you, and I feel sorry for you, but you also made me almost go bankrupt. Now that you have gone to Xinchen, you have a better development, and I won't force you. From now on, everyone can't be in conflict with each other, okay? He felt that this was his biggest concession. The previous grievances and grudges are over. He will not hold her accountable for her actions, and she will not care about the past anymore. Isn't it the best outcome? Soo-yoon said nothing. Looking at the person in front of her, she felt extremely strange. How could he say such a shameless thing and take it for granted? He didn't feel ashamed at all. It was obvious that he had been wronged and was trying to make ends meet. It was a shame he could say it out loud. So, you admit that the perfumes and essential oils of Wulan before were all made by me, she asked calmly without replying to his words. I. Luo Yuanhang was about to say, but he heard someone behind him calling Su Yun's name. Su Yun, I'm back. He stopped abruptly, and then he saw a person walking up to Su Yun, bending down and putting a hand on her shoulder. Let me catch you. Why don't you introduce your little boyfriend to me? Turning his head with a smile, Zhao Xian's smile instantly solidified on his face. He looked at Luo Yuanhang and said in surprise, You. She naturally knew Luo Yuanhang, so when she saw him, she knew that he was not Su Yun's boyfriend, but a serious ex-boyfriend. Suddenly, the smile on his face was immediately replaced by a look of contempt. What kind of wind brought the gentle Mr. Luo here? Luo Yuanhang. He was surprised at how quickly this woman changed her face, but he was also puzzled. He didn't seem to have offended her. Why did she look like she had a grudge against him? Is it because of Su Yun? No way. How long has it been since Su Yun was a freshman? She made friends so quickly? What kind of friends does she have? Hello, I'm Luo Yuanhang, who are you? He was not familiar with Zhao Xian and felt a little unfamiliar. Of course, Zhao Xian didn't care that he didn't recognize her. She smiled perfunctorily at him, then turned to look at Su Yun. Let me tell you, I have some breaking news for you. What? Su Yun looked at her with a smile. Although her appearance interrupted her little plan, she was still very happy that it could temporarily protect her from Luo Yuanhang's noise. I forgot. After thinking for a moment, her mind went blank. I originally had something to say, but when I saw a man sitting opposite Su Yun, I instantly became energetic. I thought it was the boyfriend she mentioned, and he secretly met her while she was going to the bathroom. I thought I had caught him, but I didn't expect it to be a mistake. I didn't see the real person and didn't say anything. He also forgot what he wanted to say. Suddenly, her leadership temper rose again, and she glanced at Luo Yuanhang angrily. It's all your fault. Luo Yuanhang. Mr. Luo, why don't you go and accompany your girlfriend? Why are you harassing our Su Yun here? Su Yun is our freshman now, and freshmen are not so easy to be bullied. Mr. Luo, I advise you, be a man. It's better to behave yourself. Instead of guarding your own backyard, you always worry about the grass in other people's yards. Sooner or later, the grass in your own backyard will be eaten up. Su Yun has rarely seen Zhao Xian speak in such a shady manner. Why is he talking about the front yard and the backyard? Co-author Luo Yuanhang is a rabbit, and she is just grass. What a metaphor. Luo Yuanhang was scoffed at for no apparent reason. He was still a person who had nothing to do with him. He didn't know what to say for a moment. I remembered what I wanted to say to you. She spat at Luo Yuanhang, and she suddenly remembered what she wanted to say. Su Yun was also quite interested. What? Zhao Xin was about to say something, but suddenly felt something was wrong and stopped again. Turning his head to look at Luo Yuanhang, who had been looking at them and listening to their words, Excuse me, Mr. Luo, are you okay? If there's nothing else, please step aside, we have something to say. Before Luo Yuanhang could speak, she continued, if something happens, please discuss it another day during a business meeting. After all, we are not from the same company, but we are competitors. It's really unacceptable for you to pry into other companies' business secrets like this, okay? Luo Yuanhang was speechless. When had he snooped into other people's companies' business secrets? Can't he just sit down and catch up with old friends? No. However, he still wants to save face. People have already said this, so it's a shame that he can continue to sit down shamelessly. Anyway, in the future, the mountains are high and the rivers are far away, and there are many opportunities. Since the two ladies have private things to talk about, I won't bother you. Soo-yoon, let's talk again when we have the opportunity in the future, he said hello and then stood up. Soo-yoon. The devil wants to talk to you. As he was about to leave, Luo Yuanhang suddenly remembered that Zhang Shiwei hadn't come out yet. He couldn't help but walk toward the bathroom with some worry. Before he took 2 steps, he saw that she had already come out. Although he walked a little slowly, he was much better than when he was about to vomit just now, but his face was very pale and he looked not in good spirits. Wei Wei, calling her name, he quickly stepped forward to support her. How are you feeling? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Thank you for your hard work. Let's go back to the room and rest. He thought that she was feeling so uncomfortable because of morning sickness, and he couldn't help but feel heartbroken. Zhang Shiwei didn't object, nodded, and followed him out of the restaurant. Can you say it now? Soo-yoon said to Zhao Xian after looking away. Originally she was going to say something, but when the two people came together, her attention was attracted to them. It wasn't until they left that she shook her head meaningfully. Zhao Xian laughed and took a sip of the lemonade in front of him. Guess what I saw in the bathroom just now? Soo-yoon. It's really hard for her. Manager Zhao, who is usually serious but vigorous and even a bit domineering when doing things, is no different from ordinary women when he gossips. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 is really annoying. Zhao Xian lowered her voice and said mysteriously, I saw it, adultery. Soo-yoon. Looking at her with disgust, Soo-yoon shook her head. Why do you still have this hobby? What's that look in your eyes? Do you think I gossip about everything? If it wasn't related to you, I wouldn't bother to look at this kind of thing. It's so annoying, Zhao Xian said angrily. Soo-yoon looked confused and pointed at her nose. Is it related to me? Your ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend, do you think it has anything to do with you? It was so confusing that she almost didn't react. You mean Zhang Shiwei? Zhao Xian nodded. Does your ex-boyfriend have several current girlfriends? What did you see? In fact, Soo-yoon was not very interested, but it was rare to see Zhao Xian wanting to gossip so much. If she didn't satisfy her desire for gossip, she felt sorry for her. Didn't I just go to the toilet, and then I had a stomachache? This is not the point. The point is that because I had a stomachache, I squatted there for a while, and then I heard someone rushing in to vomit. Can you tell me the key points? Why didn't she realize that Zhao Xian was pretty good at talking around things? What I'm talking about now is the key point. Zhao Xian was still not convinced, and knocked on the table emphatically. Listen. It's not unusual for someone to vomit. What's strange is that I heard a man's voice. There was a gangster in the toilet, and I was wondering if I should call the police, but they started a passionate drama. You said it was Zhang Shiwei who rushed in and vomited. Soo-yoon quickly analyzed what she meant, and thought for a moment, who is that man? Rosen. I'm K. Zhao Xian couldn't help but look at her with a shocked expression. How did you know? When did you know it? Isn't this a secret? I wasn't the first to find out. She thought she had discovered some shocking secret, but unexpectedly, Soo-yoon had already guessed it in the middle of her words. Unable to bear her frustrated look, Soo-yoon said hurriedly, No, you were the first to discover it. I didn't know about it before. I was just guessing. The guess was so accurate. Why didn't you guess that it was Luo Yuanhang? He gave her a helpless look, and Soo-yoon said, Luo Yuanhang was sitting in front of me before, have you forgotten? Besides, you said it was adultery, so of course it can't be Luo Yuanhang. That's right. Nodding thoughtfully, she couldn't help but ask, then why could you guess it was Rosen and not someone else? First, she has had the most contact with her recently. The one you and I both know is Rosen. Second, since the tasting meeting yesterday, I felt that the relationship between these two people is not simple. Suyun glanced forward, it's just that there's no definite evidence, and, whoever she has an affair with actually has nothing to do with me, and I don't care at all. Is that me, being too sentimental? Zhao Xian was speechless. She sat in the toilet for a long time, thinking she had discovered some shocking news, but it turned out that she didn't care at all. No, at least you watched a small movie for free. Suyun teased her and stood up, I'm leaving first, I'll go back later. I find it annoying to anyone who wants to watch a short movie. Zhao Xian saw that she was about to leave, what are you going to do? Why don't you go back now? Well, something happened. She just saw that Si Yao had already left, and she also received his message on her mobile phone. Of course, from the bottom of her heart, she still wanted to get together. Going to meet your boyfriend again? Suyun turned her back and waved, knowing that she didn't need to answer. Looking at her retreating back, I suddenly felt that she was still quite free and unrestrained. She was not trapped in the old relationship in the past. She really cut the knot with a quick knife. She quickly let go of the past and quickly fell into new relationships. This is what should be done. Live a chic life. If they hadn't met in the restaurant, Suyun wouldn't have known that Zhang Shiwei and the others were in the same hotel as herself. But think about it, in the local area, it is said that this hotel is considered the best. Most of the people who came to participate in the tasting stayed in this hotel, but the floors are different and the room specifications are different. She waited for a while before entering the elevator and arriving alone on Si Yao's room floor. I didn't notice it before, but now I find that it is extremely quiet after arriving on this floor. It seems that no one is in the other rooms. In addition, there is a thick carpet in the corridor, and there is almost no sound when you step on it. Si Yao didn't even close the door, he was probably waiting for her. You covered the entire floor. She stood at the door, glanced at both sides of the corridor, and her tone was almost affirmative. Yes, be quiet, he nodded. In his mouth, this seemed to be a natural thing, and it was really in line with his style of doing things. Why did it take you so long to come up? He reached out and pulled her into his arms. He lowered his head and bit her earlobe gently as a small punishment. Suyun shrank her neck because of being ticklish, and said, there are others around, so I don't want to get too close to them, lest they get discovered. Others? I didn't see it. I just saw a mangy dog, which was annoying. When he said this, there was a cold light in his eyes, and he felt disgusted when he thought of that person. At most he ignored him before, but when he saw him approaching Suyun, he had the urge to pick him up and throw him far away. I mean Sister Zhao. She patted his hand, feeling his obvious jealousy, and couldn't help but laugh. Just after you left, Sister Zhao came, and then, drove the dog away. Imitate his tone of voice and I can't help but laugh. Si Yao finally nodded with satisfaction and said, well done. It deserves a commendation. Suyun thought, what would Zhao Xian's expression be like if he knew that he was rewarded for criticizing Luo Yuanhang and driving him away? You were distracted. He turned her body over and was very dissatisfied with her momentary distraction. He lowered his head and kissed her hard as punishment. Suyun embraced him passionately and proactively, responding to his kisses and his enthusiasm. She was always happy to be with him. After a long time, Si Yao let go of his hand and rubbed it against the tip of her nose. Even if we don't say anything, just being together like this feels wonderful. You're not even curious, what did he say to me? Suyun thought he would ask. After all, when he was talking to Luo Yuan Hang, he kept looking in their direction, but he didn't even ask. Si Yao looked very disgusted. I'm not interested. I can guess it without asking. It's all rubbish. Su Yun almost wanted to give him a thumbs up. How could he guess so accurately? He has settled the little incident you caused for the time being. I'm afraid he came to show off to you, right? Letting go of his hand, he turned around to pick up the boiled water, and placed a complete set of purple sand tea sets beside it. The hot water was poured into the pot, and the steam swirled up, covering his face with hazy and beautiful outlines. Outrageous. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 94. Chapter 94. If you don't want to, I won't go. You know again. Su Yun smiled, sat down opposite him, held her chin in one hand, and looked up at him. What else don't you know? Si Yao poured the water out of the teapot slowly and slowly poured it on the body of the teapot, moistening the body bit by bit. He said, there are many things I don't know. For example, when will you be willing to reveal me to the public? His serious look made Su Yun laugh. Does Mr. Si, a low-key person like him, also want an official announcement? Low-key also depends on the aspect. He poured a cup of tea and placed it in front of her. In this regard, I hope the more high profile the better. The person you love should announce it to the whole world and let everyone know that she belongs to him and is his lover. No one can covet her, and everyone can only envy her. Lowering her eyes, Su Yun stretched out her hand to hold the small teacup, her heart filled with happiness. By the way, there's a man named Rosen around them recently. Stay away from this man. Just then, Si Yao reminded her. The tea was still a little hot. She just touched the rim of the cup and stopped when she heard this. What's wrong with him? This Rosen is indeed a bit weird. He seems to be everywhere lately. I originally thought that he was hired by Luo Yuan Hang to help, so it's not surprising that he is seen frequently on these occasions. However, there is something unusual between him and Zhang Shiwei, and he was a special guest at the tasting. The guests attended, and Si Yao reminded her to stay away. What is the origin of this person? A new rising star in the foreign perfumery industry, is very talented and has won several awards, but he is also criticized a lot. Some people question him for plagiarism, and there are also reports that there are problems with his works. Putting down the teapot, Si Yao also sat down, holding the teacup and thinking for a while. He has disappeared abroad for more than half a year, and I didn't expect to come here. And this person has bad personal ethics. He took a sip of tea, nodded with satisfaction, and then looked at her untouched tea. Try it. It's a unique variety here, a special small variety. The yield is not large, but the taste is quite good. He recommended it so enthusiastically, so Su Yun also took a sip. As expected, it tasted mellow in the mouth and had a sweet aftertaste, which left a lasting fragrance on the lips and teeth. It tastes good, she nodded, still focusing on Rosen's matter. What does it mean to have bad personal ethics? Is it about the relationship between men and women? After pondering for a moment, Si Yao nodded. Someone had accused him of intrusion, but there was no conclusive evidence, so in the end it was nothing. Later, there were reports of whitewashing, that it was a false accusation, but in short, this person is not. It's that simple. Stay away from him. I have nothing to do with him. Not to mention there was so much dirty information. Even if there wasn't, she would never have anything to do with the people on Wulan's side. She could listen to what he said, and that was enough. Si Yao nodded slightly, took a few more sips of tea, and seemed to remember something. Yesterday, were you okay? Cough cough, cough cough cough. A mouthful of tea spurted out and she choked directly. What do you mean yesterday was okay? Why did the topic suddenly jump to this? She was caught off guard. Okay. Seeing how she was shocked and her face was red from coughing, Si Yao felt distressed and amused at the same time. Is this question difficult to answer? The more he spoke, the more Su Yun's face grew hotter. She covered her lips with one hand and coughed, avoiding his sight, but her mind was filled with what happened last night. To be honest, yesterday's feelings were still very complicated, and there were some wonderful things, but after all, it was the first time, and the pain was unavoidable. Coupled with her nervousness, she couldn't help but blush when she recalled it. It seems that my performance did not satisfy you, he sighed and took another sip from the teacup. Still. Su-yoon was just about to say it was okay, when she heard him continue, no wonder I have to try again. Su-yoon. Oh treacherous people. It turned out to be waiting for her here. So, let's try again. Si-ya raised his eyebrows and looked at her with a calculating smile on his lips. Su-yoon is really convinced. After such a big detour, the topic returned to the conversation that was interrupted on the phone. There's no need to try. I'm very satisfied with Mr. C's ability, and I absolutely recognize your ability. She refused righteously to prevent his little plan from succeeding. Such compliments did not make him happy. Si Yao glanced at her lightly. That's not what you said before. Really? Maybe I wasn't clear-headed outside before, and I don't even remember what I said. Shrugging, Su-yoon pretended to be stupid. You mean, you need me to help you recall? Putting down the teacup, he walked around the table towards her. Seeing him approaching, Su-yoon subconsciously wanted to run away, but he grabbed him and pushed her down on a high stool. The stool was quite high. She sat on it and he stood on it. The height was just at his waist, so that when he pulled her towards him a little, she was stuck on his waist. Si Yao. She put her hands on his chest and softened her voice. She had just opened her teeth and claws, but now she was like a docile kitten. Don't be afraid. After putting away his teasing, he looked much more serious and said warmly, although our relationship has made further breakthroughs, what I want to tell you is that if you don't want to, I will never force you to do it. This thing is only beautiful when two people are happy. If you don't want it, I won't go. I was originally joking with him, but I didn't expect him to say such a thing. Looking at his face, his eyes couldn't be more sincere, and Su-yoon's heart felt so soft. Raised her hand and gently touched his face. Her voice was as gentle as water. Si Yao, I am willing. Took her hand and kissed the back of her hand gently. I know. He knew that it was precisely because he knew and was sure that he continued last night. If she was not willing, he would definitely stop. So, what a blessing it is that what he cherishes and wants is also devoted to him. Su-yoon opened her arms and wrapped them around his armpits, hugging him and burying her face in his arms, feeling that she was very lucky. She originally just asked for a deal, but what she didn't expect was that what she got was far beyond her imagination. She really made a lot of money. Zhang Shiwei's condition is very bad, her face is getting paler, and her lips are dry and flaky. Luo Yuanhang looks distressed. Wai Wei, shall I take you to the hospital? Leaning on the bed, Zhang Shiwei shook her head. No, I'm just tired and want to take a rest. She closed her eyes. All she could see was Rosen's face, and she suddenly broke into a sweat again. In the bathroom just now, she didn't expect Rosen to be so bold and follow her in public. Fortunately, he just kissed her and said a few words before leaving without going any further, but even so, she was frightened. Let alone being exposed by Luo Yuanhang, it would not be good for others to see it and spread it. She has to think of something. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 95. Chapter 95. What if? After returning from southern Yunnan, Luo Yuanhang did not let Zhang Shiwei do anything else. She was not allowed to go to the laboratory at all, saying that he was afraid that the chemical components in it would hurt the child in the belly. He was very cautious and responsive to her requests. Rosen also parted ways with them for the time being. Fortunately, before leaving, he gave her the formulas of 2 perfumes, saying they were new products he had developed, which was regarded as a reward for her. Originally, Zhang Shiwei was dubious, but after she handed the recipe to Luo Yuanhang and had someone mix it, the effect was really surprising. She was relieved that her work was not in vain. Of course, what Rosen gave her was far from enough. She wanted more. However, when I think of him, I think of his excessive energy, and I can't help but tremble. It's better to separate for a while, at least until her body recovers, and take this time to think about it. If she continues to be passive like this, what will happen to her? Before I can get what I want, I'm afraid I'll be squeezed dry by him first. What are you thinking about? Luo Yuanhang asked softly after bringing the warmed milk over. He was really caring for her now. Taking the milk, she smiled and said, "It's nothing. I just think that this new product should be released in time for the annual perfume competition at the end of the year. If I can win a prize, even the 3rd prize, it can bring great benefits to the company. There are some benefits." "Then you think of it together with me." Nodding her nose, Luo Yuanhang said, "I'm already preparing for this matter. The application for the annual perfume competition will be closed at the end of next month, so we have to, if it can be launched as soon as possible and create a sensation, it will be even better. I have tried it and I think it is good. It should be no problem." "That's good. I hope I can recover the losses suffered by the company before, so that you can be less stressed," she said with a sigh of relief. Luo Yuanhang was really moved when he saw that she was still thinking about him and the company even though she was pregnant and extremely unwell. Luo Yuanhang said, "Why Wei, you are so good to me." "Fool, we have been together for so long, and you are also very good to me." "I am good to you, isn't it right? Besides, I also have a share in this company." Her soft look is always the most charming. Touching. Luo Yuanhang nodded repeatedly, "Yes. The company is mine and yours, and it will still be our children's in the future. Wai Wei, I'm really glad that I chose you. If it were Su Yun, she would be." Thinking about Su Yun's ruthless attitude, he felt uncomfortable. After all, we have been together for so many years, but I didn't realize that she still had such a thoughtful mind. She had tampered with the formula in advance, and when he took the initiative to beg for peace and show his goodwill, she still took advantage of it. "I really thought, can't you just leave her? Soon, he will let her know what regret is." "Don't mention her." Zhang Shiwei frowned and turned away. "Disgusting." "Yes, disgusting. Don't mention her, drink the milk quickly, I have good news to tell you." "What's the good news?" She drank the milk in the cup in one breath. Her stomach felt much better, and her body felt much better. Luo Yuanhang helped her adjust the pillow, and she lay down and nestled in the quilt, feeling comfortable. "I have told you before that I plan to get married." After a pause, he said, "I have already mentioned it to my mother, and she asked me to take you to meet her." "Your mother?" Zhang Shiwei blinked and said, "Ms. Yao." "Yes." Nodding, he said, "When we meet her, we will start planning the wedding." "You don't want to wear a wedding dress with a big belly, eh?" She responded hesitantly, without much joy on her face. She has no plans to break up with Luo Yuanhang, but that doesn't mean she will get married now. After getting married and having a child, she has to stay at home to support her husband and raise her children. However, with Luo Yuanhang's current strength and Wulan's current scale, they are still not what she wants. If she gives birth to the child at this time, where can she find the energy to fight for her fame, wealth, and status, and how can she earn more wealth? "Are you unhappy?" Luo Yuanhang originally thought that when she heard the news, she would be happy to hug him and kiss him hard a few times, but she acted so calmly, as if she was not happy at all. "No," she asked tentatively, "have you told your mother about my pregnancy?" "Not yet, I want to give her a surprise. What's wrong? Zhang Shiwei breathed a sigh of relief. It's nothing. What I want to say is, don't rush to say it yet. After all, it's less than 3 months. I've asked others and they all said that the first 3 months are the most unstable. If something unexpected happens, this child didn't. Don't talk nonsense, Luo Yuanhang interrupted her immediately, with a look of displeasure on his face. This is our child, he will be healthy and nothing will happen to him. Don't think too much, you don't have to do anything now, as long as I can raise the baby with peace of mind. Although my mother didn't say it, I know that she really wants to have a grandson. You know, after she got married, she only gave birth to a daughter, and she only had me as a son. If I knew you, you will be very happy if you are pregnant. Don't be so nervous, I'm just saying what if. Zhang Shiwei continued. What if? There is no such thing as what if, he decisively put an end to her idea. He held her shoulders with both hands and looked into her eyes. Wai Wei, don't look at the nonsense, and don't listen to other people's nonsense. It will be fine, and the child will be fine. I won't allow anything to happen to you, and I won't allow anything to happen to the child, do you understand? Zhang Shiwei. She nodded slowly, her expression becoming more solemn. From the bottom of her heart, she had the idea of getting rid of the child, but she hadn't made a complete decision yet. She just tested it out with him now. She didn't expect his reaction to be so big. If the child was really gone, she couldn't imagine him. However, this child is really quite tenacious. It's amazing that he was fine even after being tortured like this by Rosen a few days ago. She was hesitant at first, but when Luo Yuanhang said this, she became even more hesitant. She didn't want to think about getting rid of the child for the time being, just keep it. After coaxing her to sleep, Luo Yuanhang crept out and dialed the phone. Mom. On the other side of the phone, a pleasant female voice sounded. Voyage. I will take Wai Wei to see you tomorrow. It will be the same place as before. I will go first. You don't have to worry. We will wait for you. I told you, I don't want to see her. There was silence for a while, and then he said, she is not worthy of you. Handled the phone, Luo Yuanhang looked back. The door was still closed and no one came out. Then he whispered, Mom, you promised me that if we meet her once, you will like her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 96. Chapter 96. Be her sentinel. Su-Yun has not been idle recently. Her precious little leaf red sandalwood has arrived. Because it is a specially cultivated plant, it is not a very big one, so it is placed in her laboratory. After returning from southern Yunnan, Zhao Xian applied and a separate laboratory was specially prepared for her. Although the place was not big, all the necessary equipment was available. Regarding Manager Zhao's transformation, except for the senior executives above were surprised, and the employees below were even more shocked. There were some whispers, feeling that this was a bit unfair. There is no one in the company who has his own independent laboratory within 3 months of joining the company, and it is someone like Su-Yun who was brought in without going through normal recruitment channels. Coupled with the rumors about her before, it makes her feel even more, she has a problem. Zhao Xian didn't bother to explain this at all. He only said one sentence, I will give Su-Yun the test. If any of you are willing to take the initiative to apply for the assessment and pass it, I will treat them equally and prepare a similar laboratory. With this one sentence, all the criticisms were swallowed up. Although I didn't see the second item, most people saw the first assessment with their own eyes. It couldn't be faked. Many people couldn't tell the difference at the time. She was the only one who found the problem right away, and the second Xiang, just hearing about it makes people's scalp numb. No one wants to take part in such a test, and no one thinks they can pass it, so just do your job well. The commotion outside seemed to have nothing to do with her. Once she entered the laboratory, she would be immersed in it and would not pay attention to what was going on outside. When she was in southern Yunnan, she had an inspiration. At that time, it was just a prototype. She had an idea but no exact outline. Until she found the grafted small leaf red sandalwood at the base of the flower garden, she felt that she had found what she wanted. Washing, drying, cutting, dissolving, refining the materials, a series of processes, she was so busy that she felt dizzy. It was not until night that she felt that her neck was so sore that she couldn't bear it, so she stopped. She missed Arian a little bit. They used to work together with her. Arian was the assistant and she was the main moderator. Everyone had a clear division of labor. Arian could always get what she meant accurately and timely. It was really great to work together. It's smooth. Only. Luo Yuanhang still refused to let her go, but looking at the date, her frown relaxed. Arian, do you have time to come out for something to eat? She took out her mobile phone and dialed. 30 minutes later, at a small stall near Arian's house, the two of them had dozens of skewers placed in front of them, but they sat opposite each other in silence. After a while, it was Arian who broke the silence first. Eat. She picked up a bunch and took a big bite, as if she was venting something. After looking at her, Suyun picked up a bunch and chewed it slowly. In fact, the two of them would eat together like this in the past. In total, Arian spent more time with her than Luo Yuanhang. Many. No one said a word, and there were only signatures left on the table. Suyun wiped her mouth, took out a contract from the bag she carried with her, and pushed it in front of her. Take it back and read it carefully. If you are not satisfied, we can negotiate, and you are welcome to join us. Arian glanced at it and saw that it was a labor contract, so the company was naturally new. However, she just looked at it, then shook her head, without any intention of reaching out to take it. What? Suyun said, thinking she hadn't terminated the contract yet. Aren't you willing to continue fighting side by side with me? Of course not. It's the happiest thing for me to be able to work in this industry with you. I can learn a lot from you, and I also like making perfumes. Then, after thinking for a while, Suyun said, if I remember correctly, from the day you submitted your resignation letter, regardless of whether Luo Yuanhang agrees or not, the time is up now and you can voluntarily resign. Legally speaking, even if Luo Yuanhang is unwilling, he cannot forcibly restrict her. Yes, it's indeed time, Arian sighed, but my mother won't let me resign. Suyun. She didn't expect that there was something about the other party's elder, auntie, she. Luo Yuanhang went to my house to look for me and also met my mother. My mother believed in him. She felt that Luo Yuanhang was a good boss and it was me who didn't know what to do. Moreover, he gave me a salary increase, so my mother refused to let me let's go. He leaned back and looked up at the sky. It was so dark that he couldn't even see the stars. I thought about it, but I won't leave until I leave. Anyway, he is willing to spend money because I am slacking on my work. It's good to support an idle person like me. Arian, you can't think like that, you are doing yourself a disservice. On the surface, it seems that she is spending time with the other party, eating and drinking, but the golden period has passed by, wasting the accumulation of experience, and missing the best period of development. For her, the gain outweighs the loss. It is precisely because she wants Arian to have a better development and sincerely treats her as a friend that she wants to take her away with her. But, my mother doesn't agree. He turned his head and glanced at her with helpless eyes. I don't think you are someone who only listens to your elders and doesn't have your own ideas. This is actually not a big problem. The reason why Arian's mother disagrees is that she thinks the boss is good and pays well. But when it comes to the new students, it is difficult to tell at the beginning. The future development prospects will definitely be good. As long as they communicate well, they will not be in trouble. Unreasonable in this matter. Arian stared at her for a while, then burst into laughter. Okay, I'm just kidding you. Actually, I don't want to leave. Hearing this answer, Soo-yoon was even more surprised. Why? Yan has always had a very determined attitude. Wherever you go, I will go. I'm willing to follow you. It had only been so long, and she didn't believe that Arian would suddenly change her mind, and it would definitely not be because of Luo Yuanhang's promise of a salary increase. Because, I found that staying here can help you more than following you, she said every word. Soo-yoon was puzzled. What do you mean? After they came back from southern Yunnan recently, Zhang Shiwei seemed to have been given a shot of chicken blood. She waved her hands and took out 2 perfume formulas. The laboratory has been busy preparing them recently. Luo Yuanhang attaches great importance to them. It is said that the prospects are promising. She sat upright and looked serious. Seriously? So, what does this have to do with you helping me? I want to see what level these 2 new products are, and also want to see what other tricks they can play. If they want to frame you, I can find out in time and notify you in time. These days, she has thought about it. Instead of going over to help her, it's better to stay here and be her sentinel. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 97. Chapter 97, he visited the laboratory more often than he did me. But what Arian didn't expect was that Soo-yoon would get angry. I don't need it. Her tone was stiff and her face became serious. She was really angry. Sister Yoon, She didn't expect her to have such a big reaction. Wu Arian was a little confused. I was wrong. Of course you are wrong, Soo-yoon emphasized again. What do you think of yourself and what do you think of me? I know they will definitely release new products. Wulan has been resting on its laurels during this period. If they don't release new products, they won't be able to sustain it for long. But I'm not interested in what new products they come out with or what formulas they use. Arian, you have been in this industry for so long, you should know what to do and what not to do. Should we spy on things like formulas? Do you think that I can't deal with them, so I need you to be an undercover agent or a spy? After stopping, she said slowly, Arian, I don't need to sentinel like this. Come here and be my assistant. This is where you should be. Yan. After being scolded, Arian was silent for a while and said, I'm sorry. She was wrong. She thought this would be the best revenge and the best way to vent Soo-yoon's anger, but she forgot that if she did this, it would be essentially different from Luo Yuanhang and the others. They took possession of Soo-yoon's research and development results and her formula, and he wanted to peek into their formulas and secrets, and told Soo-yoon that they were the same kind of people. Arian, I know you are doing it for me, but if you really do it for my own good, come over and help me. I have a new idea that I am currently testing, and it is too busy for one person. You are also within the automatic termination period. It's time, come here. She said sincerely, pushing the contract forward again. This time, Arian did not refuse. She directly reached out and took it, glanced at it briefly, and said half-jokingly, the treatment is not as good as mine now. As long as you work hard, are you afraid that you won't get a salary increase? Just the project commission will make you feel soft, Soo-yoon said with a smile. Well, then I'll just make it difficult. He deliberately made a grimace, as if he was extremely wronged, but in fact he was already happy in his heart. It is such a joy to be able to leave such a suffocating environment, return to familiar friends, and do what I like. It was already late at night when Soo-yoon got home. She had been too busy recently and came back very late every time. Fortunately, Si Yao has also been very busy recently, and both of them have been busy. It seems that they haven't seen each other seriously for several days. Yuqi returned to the room and saw that the bedroom was also empty. She was overwhelmed by the overwhelming longing. She really missed him. In the past, she used to be busy late at night. She would go home alone, sleep alone, and take care of herself alone. Even if Luo Yuanhang came over occasionally, he would just have a meal with her and then leave. At that time, she didn't feeling so lonely and missing. Perhaps she is used to it. She is used to someone's company and someone's pampering. She has gradually begun to rely on him a little bit. I took a shower, climbed into bed and saw that it was almost night time. After thinking about it, I sent him a message, "Aren't you coming back today?" Without waiting for his reply, he lay down on the quilt and fell asleep. She was so tired that she didn't even notice that someone was coming back. Even if someone pressed down and hugged her from behind, she still didn't wake up. Just feeling the support, she turned around with a murmur, opened her arms and legs and hugged him hard, almost resting on his body. Si Yao. In the middle of the night, he rushed back exhausted, but his little wife didn't even open her eyes to look at him, and just took the initiative to throw herself into his arms. He really didn't know whether to be happy or angry. Happy that she took the initiative, but angry that she didn't notice it like this. If it wasn't him, what about someone else? Suyun, Suyun, Si Yao called her name softly, leaning against her ear. Don't make any noise, it's so noisy, she waved her hand with a look of disgust and impatience on her face. Si Yao. Even though she disliked the noise, she still hugged her so tightly that she even buried her head in his arms, as if she could no longer hear the noise that disturbed her. Hey! He originally wanted to say something, but he could only sigh quietly, "That's all, let's talk about it tomorrow." Who is the one who favored me? He simply relaxed his body and fell asleep quickly with her pillow on his back. I slept very comfortably this time. When I woke up, I felt refreshed and strong. I wanted to stretch out, but found that my hands and feet seemed to be pressed. I suddenly opened my eyes. The handsome face in front of her could not be her dear lover. Si Yao, she called his name in surprise. "You, when did you come back?" Opening his eyes and looking at her with his obsidian eyes, Si Yao snorted softly, finally settling the unfinished accounts with her last night. "You didn't even figure out who it was before you got into your arms. What on earth are you doing? Are you a little wary?" Suyun raised her hand and tapped her forehead lightly. Of course she was reluctant to use force. Suyun raised her hand to cover her head. "Is there any other man besides you in this family? What if a bad guy breaks in? Please. You are a vegetarian in the security system of Yujing Haoding. It's so easy to break in. Even if someone breaks into the community, doesn't your house have a defense system?" She didn't take it seriously. This was not a reason at all. Good. Si Yao was surprised. "How do you know my house has a defense system?" Suyun has lived here for a while, and she discovered it after just walking around. However, the security system here is slightly inferior to that of the Chu family. But for ordinary civilian use, it is definitely enough. I guessed it, she quickly found a reasonable reason. Hasn't it been shown on TV? How could a person with your level of wealth not take some defensive measures around the house? Otherwise, why wouldn't it be possible? It's been emptied by thieves. He raised his eyebrows. This explanation seemed to make sense. Should I understand that you feel at ease with me? Sensing that she wanted to get up, he pulled her down with a turn of his wrist and lay back in his arms. Si Yao, don't make trouble, I'm going to the laboratory. She struggled to get up. She would not feel at ease until the experiment was completed. You've been visiting the lab more often than me recently. I'm considering asking the company to take back your laboratory, he muttered dissatisfiedly against her shoulder. Suyun, boss, you can't avenge yourself like this. Yao smiled as he rolled over on top of her, then, let's take revenge privately. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 98. Chapter 98 Praising his son's ex-girlfriend. Zhang Shiwei was a little embarrassed. She had been sitting for a while, but Luo Yuanhang hadn't come yet. Don't worry, she must be delayed for something, he comforted her softly, but Luo Yuanhang actually didn't know for sure. After all, mother said she didn't want to see her, and it was he who insisted. Just when he was about to get up and make a call, the door of the box was pushed open. The person who opened the door was Yao Ying's personal assistant. After she walked in, she closed the door and exited to guard the door. Yao Ying was wearing a light gray fragrant suit, and her hair had just been permed. Zhang Shiwei glanced at it and recognized that her ears and wrists were all wearing this year's latest jewelry. Really, yes, very envious. Even at her age, she is still well maintained. She looks like she is no more than 30 or 40 years old, and her figure and temperament are well maintained. It would be great if Luo Yuanhang could openly recognize her. Thinking of this, Zhang Shiwei couldn't help but be disappointed. It's a pity that Luo Yuanhang was born to her ex-husband. Not only can they not recognize each other, but they can't inherit even half of their current wealth. If he is a serious heir, then she can't take the risk of taking Rosen's line. In order to provide myself with double protection. Mom Luo Yuanhang came over and called out, then turned to call Zhang Shiwei, Weiwei, come here. This is Weiwei, I mentioned it to you before. He held Zhang Shiwei's waist with a rather attentive attitude. He raised his eyes and glanced at her lightly, which was regarded as a greeting. Yao Ying took off her coat and sat down, then directly picked up her chopsticks to eat. She was quite picky about her food, but the food in this club was more to her taste, and the privacy protection was good, so it was more private. So she usually chooses to meet with Luo Yuanhang here. However, they have always met mother and son over the years, and this was the first time that they brought someone else with them. Mom, how are you lately? Luo Yuanhang sat down with him and carefully expressed his concern. I heard that you acquired another small company. Uncle, yes, health is not very good either. You must be working very hard. Handling the vegetables in her hands, she ate them carefully and said nonchalantly, you don't need to worry about these things. Yes. I know Mom is very capable and can handle it. By the way, I would like to thank you for my company's affairs a while ago. If you hadn't helped me, I really don't know what I would have done. He expressed his gratitude, but Zhang Shiwei was surprised. It was okay for her to be nervous, but she didn't expect that even Luo Yuanhang would be so nervous and polite. Facing his biological mother, he always kept saying you, polite and unfamiliar. This is not the attitude of a son towards his mother. He is completely superior to his subordinate. The hand holding the chopsticks stopped, then put it down. He took out a tissue and wiped the corners of his mouth carefully, then balled it up and threw it on the table. Yuanhang, you handled this matter very poorly. Yes, I know I didn't think carefully. I didn't expect that Suyun had tampered with the formula. I almost let the company do it because of this little mistake. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Yao Ying. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that you handle emotional matters very poorly. Mom, unexpectedly, Luo Yuanhang was stunned for a moment and asked a question. Why did Suyun tamper with the formula? How many years has she been with you? How many products in your small company are not made by her? She has always obeyed your words and been obedient. Why did you want to force her away? As she spoke, she tapped her finger on the table with a serious expression, like a stern teacher questioning a student who made a cheating mistake. Luo Yuanhang was confused by the question, and his face was a little confused. He felt like he was sweating. Mom, I asked Rosen to help you because you are my son. I don't want to see you working so hard for so long only to have nothing in the end. But that doesn't mean you are right. Yuan Hang, you are totally wrong about this matter. Wrong. Her criticism was merciless, and the one who is most embarrassed now is Zhang Shiwei. What's happening here? She followed Luo Yuanhang to meet her future mother-in-law, but this future mother-in-law obviously didn't take her seriously. Not only did she not even look at her, she didn't even say a word to her. Not only that, she also praised her son's ex-girlfriend in front of her. What kind of operation is this? She sat there, her face turning red and white, feeling like she was sitting on pins and needles. After being scolded, Luo Yuanhang retorted unconvinced, "Mom, I can't control emotional matters. What I like is Wai Wei, what I love is her, and I can't live with someone I don't love for a lifetime. Yes, Suyun is talented and capable in perfumery, but I can't marry her just because of this. I admit that I took advantage of her, but I also gave her a lot after knowing her for so many years. She always falls out with her, which shows how heartless she is. Such a person, even if it weren't for this time, would come back to bite me if he failed to protect himself. Now, I am eliminating the hidden dangers in advance." After the words, he may feel guilty himself, and his voice becomes smaller and smaller. Yao Ying glared at him, "So, I have to praise you." "That's not what I meant," he said quickly. "Mom, I specially brought Wai Wei to see you today, so I don't want to mention those past things. No matter how good Suyun is, she has already left. I love Wai Wei, and she will also be your daughter-in-law. I am going to marry Wai Wei." The words should be finished, and Yao Ying did not continue to count anymore. This was a look at Zhang Shiwei. It's just that Zhang Shiwei couldn't see the slightest bit of liking in her eyes. "When you grow up, I can't stop you from doing what you want to do. You also have your own ideas. But when it comes to marriage, I advise you, you guys should think it over carefully," she said and reached out to take it. He put the bag aside. "Marriage is not just playing house. If you insist on getting married, then go ahead and do it." Handed a bank card to him. "This is a small tribute from me. You know, I can't attend your wedding. The password is your birthday. No matter what, I hope you can have a good time." "Thank you, Mom," he said happily after taking the card. "I understand your difficulty, and I am very happy that you are willing to agree. Okay, I've wasted too much time today, I'm leaving first." Standing up, she was about to leave. "Well, I will wait for an hour before leaving. Please take care of yourself." Luo Yuanhang stood up and found Zhang Shiwei still sitting there lazily, so he gave her a hand, and she slowly stood up. Yao Ying didn't care about this at all. She just raised her hand and patted her son's shoulder gently. "You too." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 99. Chapter 99 is just not what she wanted. Luo Yuanhang was still very happy, holding the card in one hand and Zhang Shiwei in the other. "Wai Wei, we can finally get married." Glancing at the card in his hand, she shook off his hand very coldly. "Really? Look, this is a gift my mother gave us, which means she has recognized you. I know what she just said made you unhappy. Don't think too much about it. She didn't mean anything else. She just took it from her. It's good for me. Of course she is doing it for your own good, and even helped you choose a wife, but the qualified daughter-in-law in her eyes is not me." Thinking about what her prospective mother-in-law said just now, she felt very angry. One mouthful of Suyun, and now it is she, Zhang Shiwei, sitting in front of her, who wants to marry her son, not Suyun. There was no self in her eyes at all, and the contempt coming from the bottom of her heart made Zhang Shiwei very uncomfortable. Look, you're having trouble again, aren't you? I've already said that she means what she says, but she doesn't mean it. Let's take a step back and say, no matter how much she likes Soo-yoon, but I don't, so what? Could she spend her whole life with Soo-yoon? I'm the one who wants to get married, and I'm the one who wants to get a wife. Her opinions are just opinions, and they won't change anything, Lo Yun-hang patiently coaxed her, and she also knew that in this matter, she was indeed. I was wronged. Really? Zhang Shiwei turned to look at him and said, what if you change your mind? How could I change my mind? Don't you understand my feelings after all these years? I have always liked you, and only you. Now, we still have children, and I will not change even if I am killed. As if to reassure her, Lo Yun-hang took her hand and stuffed the bank card into her palm. From now on, all our family's money will be under your control, and so will I. You are the biggest. Looking at the bank card in the palm of his hand, and then looking at his sincere eyes, Zhang Shiwei nodded with satisfaction. Let's see how you perform. After sending Zhang Shiwei home, Lo Yun-hang drove straight to the laboratory. The recent experiments on new products have reached the final stage, and nothing can go wrong. Just like Wei Wei said, he is still counting on these two new products. I can come back with an annual award. A few days ago, we recruited a few more perfumers and experimenters. Although their abilities are not particularly strong, they are at least professional. They cannot produce high-quality products. It is not a problem to toss in a few ordinary products. Everyone was busy. He took a quick look and found that the progress of the project was pretty good, so he didn't say anything more. He just encouraged everyone to work harder. When results are achieved, everyone will receive a collective salary increase. After walking around, I found that someone was not there again, so I called the person in charge of the laboratory. Where is Wu Arian? Did you ask for leave again? Or is he absent from work? This little girl has only been normal for a few days, so why is she doing something so stupid? It's not Mr. Luo, she said. She resigned, the person in charge said in a low voice. He thought Mr. Luo knew about it. Resignation, Lo Yun-hang raised his voice. When did she resign? Who allowed her to resign? I confiscated her resignation letter, and I did not sign her resignation. Call her and call her back right away. I think it's really a big deal. He put his hands on his hips and said angrily. The person in charge dialed the phone tremblingly. Can't get through. Keep fighting. If it doesn't work, go to her house to look for her. How brave she is, she scolded her like this, but she felt uncomfortable and thought for a while and said, forget it, I'll fight it myself. Turning around, he went back to the company and went straight to the Human Resources Department. Take Wu Arian's information for me, and let the company's legal department handle it. What kind of punishment and compensation will an employee receive if he leaves without authorization? The HR department looked up at him and said, Mr. Luo, Wu Arian submitted her resignation letter more than a month ago. According to the labor contract law, regardless of whether you agree or not, you can resign automatically after 30 days. What rule? Why didn't I hear about this rule? Lo Yun-hang was very surprised. This was something he never expected. He always thought that as long as he didn't sign or agree, she, Wu Arian, would have to stay here and continue working. But now what the HR department said made him very angry. This is stipulated in the contract law. The voice trailed off. Even if the boss got angry again, the national regulations were the regulations. Then, she can leave if she wants? Is there nothing the company can do? He didn't believe that a small employee in a company as big as this could actually do nothing to her. Her salary and benefits for last month have not been settled yet. He lowered his head and looked through the information and said, detain it. Lo Yun-hang gave the order without hesitation. In addition, because of the special nature of her previous job responsibilities, she may be required to fulfill the non-compete agreement. Luo Yuanhang's eyes lit up. That's great. You guys just handle this and don't let her take a job in other peers. If she doesn't listen, we'll go through legal procedures to make her compensate for the company's financial losses. He could guess with his toes that this girl was determined to leave just to be with Suyun, but he was not as good as she wanted. It's okay to leave, but don't expect to stay in this industry for at least a year. As long as she dares to go to another company, he will dare to sue her for breach of contract. If Suyun is really so powerful, let her pay for the breach of contract. He felt much relieved when he thought that he still had a magic weapon to control them. Facts have proved that you should never flirt with a hot-blooded man, especially one who has just tasted the sweetness. She just said a few happy words, but he used actual actions to prove her words' use. Are you done? It's fatal. This is how disaster comes from words. If she could bear it the first time, then this morning, Yao let her know how restrained he was the first time. Now she felt like all the bones in her body had been dismantled and put back together again. Practicing is not so tiring. After taking a shower and changing clothes, I saw the purple-red hickey on my neck in the bathroom mirror. I smacked my lips. I could only find a high-collared shirt to put on and cover it with a silk scarf. At least I couldn't see it. Out. Hurrying to the laboratory, she told Arian that she would report to the laboratory today and get familiar with the working environment first. After all, she was late. When she arrived out of breath, Arian was already chatting with Zhao Xian at the door. She didn't know how long she had been here, but the two of them seemed to have known each other for a long time, and they were chatting happily. Hearing the noise, Zhao Xian turned around, looked at her and smiled. It's so rare. A workaholic can be late. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. You know. Sorry, I overslept. She looked at Arian. It seems that you all already know each other without my introduction. From now on, we are all family members, so why do we need to introduce them? Zhao Xian put a hand directly on Arian's shoulder and said with a smile. Sister Zhao, your attitude is too different. You were not so friendly to me back then. Shaking her head, Suyun felt sorry for herself. That's different. At first I thought you were going through the back door, but now, this is the back door that I agree with, she said half jokingly, patting Arian on the shoulder. What a double standard, Suyun exclaimed. Okay, now that we're here, let's get to work quickly. I happen to be short of manpower here, and I want to get new products out as soon as possible. Okay, then you all need to work on Arian's entry procedures first, and then go to the Human Resources Department to complete them in 2 days. Is that okay? This last sentence was asked to Wu Arian, and she naturally nodded and said, no problem. Things like procedures can be made up at any time. The most important thing is who you work with, whether you are happy or not. It's nice here. After entering the laboratory, Arian looked around the surrounding environment and praised, it has more complete facilities than the previous place. Wow, it even has these. Suyun said while changing her work clothes, although the freshman class is not large, after all, it is supported by UniAsia, and in terms of hardware, it is still quite passable. Also, Manager Zhao also said that if we have any necessary equipment at work, equipment can be reported to the company. Big companies are really good. You are on the right track. Arian followed her and put on work clothes, washed her hands, and prepared to work. By the way, let's go. Luo Yuanhang didn't make things difficult for you, right? Seeing her relaxed look, Suyun probably asked uneasily, as the matter over there was probably settled. I haven't even seen him. She waved her hand and said, anyway, according to the labor contract law, I have reached the time when I can voluntarily resign, and he can't stop me. And, I moved. Getting closer to Suyun, she said the last 4 words with great joy. Move place. Yeah, she nodded. I've thought about it. Although I can convince my mother, if he bothers me again and again, I'm afraid my mother will be swayed. She has a soft ear and is easily incited. And I'm going to come here anyway, so why don't I just move to a place closer to here and kill two birds with one stone? But is it easy to find a place for you during this short period of time? Do you want me to help you keep an eye on it? Looking for a house is a tiring job, and she feels sorry for Arian. After all, it was originally just a dispute between herself and Luo Yuanhang, but Arian was also involved for no reason. No, I actually have this plan, so I have been paying attention to it for a long time. I just decided to come here, so I called the agency. Fortunately, the house is still there and I have finished moving. Is it efficient? He chose proudly. She raised her eyebrows in a somewhat showy tone. That's good. Nodding, Suyun formally went to work, focusing on telling her general idea, as well as the raw materials she might need to prepare. After all, they are old partners. Arian listened carefully and took notes. The two of them performed their duties, and the experiment went smoothly. Every time a new product is released, many different samples are prepared at the same time, and then observations and data are recorded. After all, a little difference will make a big difference in the final result. The day soon came to night, and the sky had already darkened. Suyun stretched her sore shoulders and walked out of the laboratory. She saw Yan walking to the edge of the lounge with 2 cups of brewed coffee and smiling at her. Just right, let's take a rest. Suyun nodded and the two sat down on the sofa. Looking at her, putting a hand on her shoulder and moving her neck, Arian said with concern, "Are you tired? Let me squeeze it for you." In the past, when she was in Wulan, she would give her a squeeze occasionally, but it had been a long time since she had done that. Suyun didn't refuse. She turned around slightly and pushed her hair to one side, exposing her slender neck. Wu Arian squeezed her shoulders with both hands and applied gentle pressure. It was indeed much more comfortable to be relaxed a little. "It's better to have you. I've been really stressed out these past 2 days. Now that you're here, I feel much more relaxed." She raised her head and closed her eyes. She felt a little sleepy. The progress of a new product is not that fast. After all, it still needs to go through repeated trials. But now that Arian is here, she will not be too busy or tired. "So, should you consider giving me a salary increase?" Arian looked sideways at her, smiling and joking. "Where can I find someone like you? You will get a raise on the first day of employment." "You will scare the boss away," Suyun said with disapproval, shaking her head. "An employee who doesn't take the initiative to ask for a salary increase is not a good employee." With a smile, Arian glanced at a certain place and stopped massaging her hands. Sensing something strange about her, Suyun opened her eyes and asked, "What's wrong?" "Suyun, you..." She hesitated, probably because she didn't know how to speak, but her eyes stayed on a certain place. She lowered her head suspiciously, not seeing anything wrong with herself, but what she was looking at was. Raising her hand, Arian patted her neck, roughly indicating the location. Following her movements, Suyun suddenly remembered. "Originally, I was wearing a high-collar shirt to block it, but later I changed into work clothes and couldn't block it anymore." But because she was working all the time, she didn't pay attention. Now Arian massaged her and moved her hair aside to expose her neck. The hickey on her neck was directly exposed. "Ah. It's a bit embarrassing, but we are all adults, so there is no need to hide it." She smiled at Arian, "It's just that, you know." Her reaction made Arian burst into laughter. I understand. But, who are you with? Luo Yuanhang has already broken up, so it's definitely not the case. Others, she doesn't seem to have seen Suyun getting too close to anyone. To be precise, in the past few years, the only man who has appeared in her life and can still call her by name is Luo Yuanhang. Apart from the laboratory, She lives in a rented house every day, and even goes shopping a handful of times. Soo-yoon has a new boyfriend? Who is it? Why can't she even think of anyone? Do I know him? After thinking about it, Arian asked again. If you don't know someone, it's useless to try to break your head. She thought this was a simple question, but for Soo-yoon, it was quite difficult. Probably, we know each other. With Si Yao's reputation and status, there shouldn't be many people who don't know him, especially in Sioux City, but if they do, Arian probably hasn't had much dealings with him. End of this chapter.